Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Thursday morning. Excited to have Devon Givens with us. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, plenty to talk about as we turn the page to the New York Giants. Lots to talk about from Nick Sirianni's press conference yesterday, Zach. Another sort of testy one. We'll get into some of the specifics of that, the Quez Watkins stuff, the accountability stuff, the pass to A.J. Brown at the end of the game, all that good stuff. What we want to learn from Matt Patricia today, who's going to talk to the media. And Devon's got some stuff to talk about. And now, Devon needs no introduction. This is a man who's comfortable talking the Eagles. But I do think for the sickos, they should know that a famously cantankerous former co-host of ours went out of his way to say, oh, Devon is like the best guy in Philadelphia. So they should know that.
Well, that's my guy. Well, first of all, thank you guys for allowing me to be on here with you. You know I watch all the time. Big fan of the sickos. I don't know if I'll be part of the sickos, but I'm a big fan of the sickos. And yes, Sheil is my guy. Yeah, I've known Sheil for a long time. I produced for Sheil and Tim when they were doing their show back in the day. And that's how Sheil and I got close. I was already cool with Tim. And then Sheil came in and we would just be, since then, we could talk about anything.
Love that.
Whenever I needed to reach out, talk some work, things, get some advice with things, Sheil was always very accommodating and still friends to this day, yeah.
Sheil loves, we don't have to make this episode about Sheil. No. There is nothing Sheil loves more than talking about a work situation with somebody else, I think.
Yes, that is true. I can attest to that. That is accurate.
Did he do that? With that? Okay.
Yeah. Big time.
All right.
But no, I'm pumped to have Devon here. I was going to say good change of pace, good addition, more than anything else. And I said I was on TV with Devon back in 2017, and it was great. It was just before I knew that your co-hosts make fun of you the whole time, right? So it was like,
right.
We were talking NBA draft. It was fun. And then 2 years later,
you said you remembered it was your first show post-read.
First show post-read, yeah, because we did in Quick Six, which was something we did at the end of the show.
Yeah.
They asked me a question about Reed. Shout out to Rachel, who was the producer, or not the producer. It was Booney was the producer, but Rachel kind of put that in, and Emily videotaped it and put it out there. She was pumped.
Nice.
So, yeah.
You weren't afraid to talk about personal matters at that point.
I was very matter of fact about it.
Okay.
I'm I became a father last week. Let's talk about Caleb Swanigan in the NBA draft, right?
Right.
So.
And Devon and I are going to be doing the post game show on Christmas on Monday, and the fact that you walked in and the first thing you said was we got to talk about Zach's basketball. Is,
we need to get into the Zach basketball league. I love those stories. But I'm always on the other end of, I'm with you, Bo, because I'm no, I need more numbers. Yeah, I understand what you're doing for the team.
Yes.
And I'm team oriented too.
Yeah.
Point guard, my own right. But selfishly, it's Zach, I need more numbers.
All right, so
I need more numbers.
In that case, though, your scoring could probably help the team. if all of a sudden I'm aggressive.
Right.
Out there trying to score, it's not going to help the team.
Okay.
Right? Now, we're 0-3. We can probably use more of a scoring punch. I don't think that scoring punch is going to come from me.
Now, are you the point guard?
Yes.
Okay. That's where I need your other off guard to help set you up, too. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah. You know what, though?
Zach, it's like you're the Quez Watkins out there. You got to show that you can at least put up a shot. You got to make the defense appreciate your ability to get to the hole.
I want my shooting percentage at the end of the year to be exceedingly high because I only want to take shots that it's better. It's better for me to take it than anyone else. So if I have an open layup, I will take it. If I have an open jumper, I will take it. Yeah. But if someone's on me, it doesn't make sense for me to try to be aggressive there when I could get the ball to someone who's a better scorer than me.
All right.
You have to. What's the expression? Know your personnel and
KYP. I know.
Yeah,
I
know
hear
your
you.
strengths. Yeah. So it would, and I do stand by this. You want people to want you on their team. And if you're the only thing worse than playing with someone who doesn't pass the ball is someone who doesn't pass the ball and doesn't realize that he's not a good scorer, and I'm not a good scorer. So
okay, fair enough. Now, Devon, you are used to talking Eagles, and you haven't had a chance really in a while. We got a list of topics we want to get to, but generally speaking, give us your sort of vibe with this team right now at 10-4, coming off 3 straight losses? Are you like sky is falling, this whole thing's coming down, or are you more of a Zach Berman? Like let's see how this thing plays out. They deserve a lot of credit for being what they've done the past year and a half.
Yeah, I'm more. I think I'm more in the middle of both of you right there, and lean more towards Zach because I'm big on how did it happen with anything, and especially with sports, because we know we can set things up a certain way, and then when we get there, okay. How did we get here? How did it happen? And how we got here with the start that they had was tremendous. But there were some things in there that needed to be corrected. When were they going to be corrected? How many times are we going to be doing these post-game shows and these daily shows that you guys do and saying, well, they still need to fix this even though they're 8-1.
Right.
And they still haven't shown that they are the Philadelphia Eagles that we thought they were. And now we are here where they've lost 3 in a row and they hadn't done that. And now, how did it happen? Well, how it has happened is the vibes are bad. The vibes are really bad.
Are you a vibes guy? Like,
I am a vibes guy.
Okay.
I am a vibes guy, and you can tell even from afar. You guys know it way better, being around them all the time, but just being from afar and seeing how things. I'm not used to hearing Nick Sirianni say the things that we're going to get to, so I'm not going to jump and step on those. I'm not used to hearing Nick Sirianni say the things that he is saying or reacting the way that he is currently reacting. I'm not used to hearing when Jalen said what he said to you in that post-game press conference on Monday night, the way that he is. I am used to seeing bad vibes on the field and saying, that's a problem. I don't like the slumping of the shoulders. I don't like the body language. I don't like the flailing of the arms when certain things are not going the way that I'm not used to Jason Kelce getting a false start when they're about to attempt a quarterback sneak. I'm not used to it because he knows they've told him the rules. He knows it. Well, I might pick at the rules of how the officiating and the NFL wants to complain about the center moving. The body didn't move. The ball moved. He didn't go anywhere. The ball did. He's still snapping the ball.
Right.
That's a whole nother issue. So I look at it and I say, yes, the vibes are bad. It's not good, but they have an opportunity where they're already in the playoffs. They still have a chance to win the division and correct the mistakes. And if we've learned anything from this team over the 3 years that they've been together, head coach and quarterback, and especially looking at how good they were last season, they do correct their mistakes. They adjust to the moment. Where we've seen Jalen Hurts, okay, the passing is not working. I'm going to run and I'm going to pick up this first down and pick up this next first down and do the next thing. And then all of a sudden things open up for your position players, your skill players to make things happen. I do have faith because I've seen them do it, but I'm not ignoring that the vibes are bad.
Are you a vibes guy?
I mean, I'm not a vibes as replacement for everything else, but yeah, I think the vibes matter. I like, we can talk about Nick now because, I mean, do you disagree that since the beginning of last week, so I guess this is like 4 or 5 press conferences now, if you count the post game, since the loss to the Cowboys, every single one of those has been defensive and combative. Now, perhaps that is purposeful. Perhaps that is to take away attention or blame from other people. But I understand the impetus on his part to be like, I'm sorry, is our memory so short that we don't remember that I took this team to the Super Bowl last year and we were 10-1, and even now in the skid we're 10-4? Like, where is my respect?
Yeah.
At the same time, it is hard to keep that posture as like let's be calm here when you are replacing your defensive coordinator after 2 straight losses, right? Like, you cannot pretend that you don't think things are going wrong when you're doing that. And so we'll get to some of the things that he talked about yesterday, like the accountability, which, you know, he really bristles at, and some of the offensive struggles. But, like, I do not love those vibes.
Yeah, so I can't defend that because 2 things there. First off, I'm in the camp that, like, you hear the expression losing builds character. I think losing reveals it, right? Like, it's very easy to act a certain way when you're winning. How do you act when you're losing? And to your point, teams often take on the personality or the temperament or of the coach, of the leader in that situation. I think you were accurate in suggesting that Nick wants or Nick thinks he's entitled to the benefit of the doubt. That said, your actions and your words have to align. And they literally have not been in alignment during these past few weeks. And I understand that you're going to say things, whether it's to protect somebody or competitive advantage or things of that nature. You're not going to treat press conferences like a therapy session and just reveal all. But there's a way of not answering a question without lying, without like offending, and let's take the reporters out of it, without offending the fan base, because essentially you're speaking to the fans. Like, you're answering the questions from the reporters, but you're speaking to the fans. And it can be like offensive to the fans sometimes to try to use the expression you use, to piss on them and say it's raining. Right. So I am with you there. I also think that there's it is fair to say we've won 10 games. We're in the playoffs. Like 3 weeks in the NFL. 3 weeks ago, this team was atop the world. They just beat the Chiefs. Jalen was going to be MVP. Everything was great. 3 weeks from now, after 2 games against the Giants and a game against the Cardinals, and they're going into the playoffs, like, things could be entirely different. So sometimes you say, all right, let's take a deep breath. We know how to, we put ourselves in this hole. We know how to climb out of it. So I always think, what would I do if I was in the head coach's shoes? And there's different ways you need to attack it. And that's a big part of this, is the messaging to your team. Like I put out, you're gonna check. I put out a tweet last night. A passage.
Make your content work for you, baby.
A passage from Nick Nurse's book. He was talking about the playoff series against Orlando in 2018, and he talked about like how he was really hard on Kyle Lowry and on Kawhi Leonard, and Marc Gasol, and he felt that you needed that in that situation. He needed to push those veteran guys, and they needed to feel it, and they were fine thereafter. So I'm fascinated by how Nick is approaching this behind closed doors as well.
Well, I mean, that is the thing that we don't know, obviously, and I would imagine that, like, he sort of bristled at the accountability question yesterday about, like, that's our number 3 core value, like all this thing. Like, of course, I promise we're doing the same accountability we do when we were winning. And I don't know if you saw the Mike McDaniel clip from him sort of going after the guys after they lost that Titans game and going after himself for bad play calls. But I'm sure that was not his posture in the press conferences, right? Like, those things are separate. We don't know how he's doing things behind closed doors, but I don't know. Like, what is your take on the way that Nick has been sort of talking to the public the past week and a half?
Yeah, not being himself, gaining that respect and that trust from everybody in terms of Eagle fans, and saying that he feels like he's earned that respect and that right to be in this bad spot. I think he has, number one, because nobody's saying fire Nick Sirianni. They were talking fire Brian Johnson and fire Deshaun Desai. They're saying, Nick, get it together. Nick, fix it. If you are an offensive coordinator, fix the problem that you are currently having right now. We don't have faith. I'm speaking as you hear the Eagle fans talking. They don't have faith in Brian Johnson right now. So, Nick Sirianni, this is your football team. Correct it. Not go and make a change at defensive coordinator, even though that's a whole nother issue when it comes to the fans saying fire Sean Desai or Brian Johnson. They do it, and now they're ticked off that they're doing it this late in the season. But yes, he has earned that, and I think he is getting it in a sense, but he wants it full blown. He wants it where there's no criticism. He has talked about how important the city is to him, how great this city is, how they have treated them, the family, his family, and all that. Well, he's been here long enough, these 3 seasons, to understand how things go. Locally, you're going to get it. What the fans will do is also protect you nationally when the others come after you.
That's right.
So he has to understand that part, that this is tough love when it comes to the stuff that he's getting right now from the fan base and wherever they are in the country or nationally, wherever they are. He has to understand that. So that's where we're talking about the kinks, where we're starting to see some of that seep in there, and he has to be better. He has to be stronger, because the veterans, when Fletcher Cox comes on your show and he's talking, he's like, yeah, we're fine. We'll figure this out. You need to hear that from that guy too.
Yeah.
When you hear Brandon Graham say it, yeah, we're fine. We'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it. We're already in the playoffs, but we have to figure it out. You need to hear it from him too, because he is essentially the leader.
Exactly.
And that's where my problem is with Nick Sirianni. So Nick, if you're watching, yes, that's a problem for me right now, because you're wanting this type of respect. You're wanting all of that from everyone, but you're now changing in the moment. We're starting to see you crack under this pressure. When we saw you cry ahead of the Super Bowl, it was like, oh, they're about to get after it. They're following their leader. And he's showing who he truly is. Is this truly you now, where you're showing us that in the heat of the battle, in the heat of the moment, when things are not going, everything is not rose petals dropping at your feet, that you can't handle that, and that's not good.
It's funny because we have talked about this before. I actually think that from a leadership perspective, like taking on the personality of the leader, this team follows Jalen more than it follows Nick.
Fair. Okay.
I think that's what they want, because Jalen is the steady guy who is saying the same things as Fletcher and BG in those situations. Like, we need to stick to the process, whereas Nick is volatile and, reacting to big plays and swings in results week to week. Like, I don't think you want your team being like Nick. At the same time, you don't want Nick being someone he isn't.
Yeah.
Right? So if this is who he is, that's fine. But, again, we don't know what he's being like behind the scenes with the guys. I would imagine he's much more steady with the team.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that about not wanting to be someone that you're not. I had a spirited conversation with someone a few weeks ago when Nick was kind of had that swagger, had that arrogance, if you will. And someone said to me, like, if they start to lose, this will look really bad. And I said, if they start, it was kind of foreshadowing what it was happening. I said, if they start to lose, he shouldn't stop doing this, right? Like, to get back to the basketball discussion, shoot or shoot. Mm-hmm. If it looks bad, I think, if Nick only has this swagger about him when they're winning, right? Be that all the time. Have that confidence all the time that your team's going to go into Kansas City and beat them. That you are like, these other teams can't quarterback sneak better than us, right? Like, don't lose that swagger just because you lost 3 games. In my opinion,
I just think there's a difference between like a swagger of like, yeah, this is not going well, but like, don't worry about it.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
And not like how dare you question?
Right.
Like, don't you know that I have swagger?
Right.
Well, and to that point, it is kind of funny that it's like, don't talk about last year's team unless it's to justify an offense with the way they played through 11 games of the season. And then it's fine. Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't bring up last year's Super Bowl because we moved on. So there is a little hypocrisy there.
All right, before we get to some of those specific quotes, let's talk a little bit about Rocket Money. It's the holiday season. You gotta find those pennies wherever you can get them. Rocket Money will help you out. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want, or if it's duplicative with something my wife has, we can cancel it. Just one tap. One tap. I never have to get on the phone with customer service. They will even try to get you a refund for the last couple months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY. rocketmoney.com/PHLY.
So I have a quick question, Devon. Who's your favorite, let's say, NBA player?
Currently?
Yeah, or no, when you were a kid. Who's your
when
favorite?
I was a kid?
Yeah, when you were 6 years old.
Yeah. Well, I had a lot, but let's just go with one that I know. Like what? Sean Elliott.
Sean Elliott. Okay,
Sean
I like
Elliott,
that.
nice.
You
3D.
can unpack that. Number 32 from Arizona.
Love it.
Had that great game-winning 3 in the Alamo Dome. Well, anyways,
1989.
just imagine the joy on your face if you opened up a pack of cards and you had that Sean Elliott card. Well, that's what you can find at Wheelhouse Cards, because Wheelhouse is the go-to sports card gift and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley. Their motto is Cards in Community, because love of sports unites us all. When I'm there, I say this in an honest way, I'm always interested to see like the joy in the kids' faces when they open that pack of cards and they get the card that they really wanted, because I remember that very well. As you can also, if it's not just cards, well, they carry all of the card brands like Topps, Chrome Baseball, and Mosaic Football, but they also have T-shirts, hats, and hoodies. from brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 brand, Junk Food Starter, and Shy Vintage Sports. So if you're looking to grade your sports card collection, Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host tons of different family-friendly events like birthday parties every single month. Stop in to either of their stores in Wayne or Westchester. Open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. Use code PHLY. It gets you $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Also, be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards.
All right, so first answer I want to talk about here was a good question from Dave Zangaro. And this was like, I think, the start of Nick like really getting in a bad mood. Dave says, I think you would probably agree that the standard hasn't been met on either side. And Nick jumps in. He's like, I just said that 2 seconds ago. Like, okay. Yep. It's like, and Dave's like, okay, like, can I just continue with the question? And he says, when you look at the differences in the struggles offensively and defensively, what led to you making a coaching staff on defense but not on offense? And Nick says, so offensively, the last 3 games have not been consistently up to our standard. But if you look at our offense throughout, and there are 2 key parts here. It still is in the top 10 category in a lot of statistical categories, yada, yada, yada. We have to put the players in more positions to create explosive plays. But make no mistake about it, the offense is being run the exact same way the offense was run last year and the year before that. The offense is my offense, right? This is my offense. So the criticism of the offense, I think, unfairly goes to Brian. Brian calls the plays. It unfairly goes to Brian. The criticism on this offense should come at me because this is my offense. I was hired to do a job here and got hired because I was successful as an offensive coordinator with our schemes and the different things that we do to coach players and help players win. I'm committed to that. So 2 things here. 1, he's taking the bullet for Brian Johnson as he should.
Yeah.
That's what he should do, and that's true. Like, this is his offense.
Yes.
It's not Brian's. But we will get to the predictability of it. To say, like, this is the same offense as it was last year, I feel like that is a bit of a revealing slip because that is the truth. Like, there is not a lot different in the offense this year than there was last year, and that is a huge part of the problem.
Yeah, teams spent the entire offseason studying one of the top offenses in the NFL, an offense that went to the Super Bowl, and they studied it for 2 reasons. First off, to see if they can take any clues and add it to their game, and 2, to try to stop the Eagles. Like, when we play them, what will we do? And I think you're seeing that. In the NFL, you have to keep adapting. You have to keep evolving. Otherwise, your offense is last year's story. And I think you're seeing that. You're seeing defenses play the Eagles differently. Okay. Now, Nick Sirianni used that stat that a few weeks ago they had the most explosive plays against cover 4.
Right.
Their explosive plays are down. That's the bottom line. Like, Nick Sirianni's been on the record saying the 2 numbers that he pays most attention to are explosive play differential and turnover differential. Well, they're down in both of those. All right. So turnovers is a separate story, but explosive plays, well, maybe it's because the offense hasn't evolved. It's the same personnel. Like, Jalen Hurts hasn't gotten worse. There's been regression, but he's not like a worse player. Okay. Or I'm saying like he didn't like forget how to play quarterback is my point. Okay. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are still here. Like, the offense returned 8 of 11 starters. Okay. They have blue chip players at basically every position, maybe not running back, but quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line, tight end. For them to not score into the 20s in 3 consecutive weeks is a damning indictment of where this offense is.
It really is. And when we talk about looking at adjustments, where are the adjustments? Where teams are adjusting in the offseason to take away those things, Zach, as you say. But then you come in and you started the season and you are scoring points. You are putting points on the board. Then they adjust again because they want to see what else they might have missed in the offseason to try to take away in the moment. And they have done that. They have started to do that. So where's the creativity? Where are the things that we're not seeing? Like, for instance, the brotherly shove, tush push, quarterback sneak, whatever you want to call it. Okay, we know what they do. Everyone knows what they do and they can't stop it. But what did we see? We saw a wrinkle. And that wrinkle was, all right, let's now fake it and hand off and go on the outside and we get a score there. Okay, did you show that too soon? Whatever. It was creative. It was different. It was something new that no one had ever seen before. And right now with this team, that's not it. It's A.J. Brown. It's Devontae Smith. It's Jalen Hurts running. It's the occasional Devontae Smith thing. DeAndre Swift. And sometimes the tight end only Dallas Goedert. And maybe Olamide Zaccheaus, where we should probably see a little bit more of that. But where's the creativity? We watch all of these other teams with these offenses, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. That one was pretty cool. That was creative. there's not enough creativity here with this football team right now on the offensive side. Well, we saw a lot of that last season. As good as the individual talent is to make the plays themselves and make the defenders miss, where's the creativity in setting up the play design to get them open?
I have a thought that the brotherly shove, the tush push, is at this point starting to hurt them a little bit.
How so?
And not in the play itself is still successful. But, he's asked about the Christian McCaffrey clip, right, where he easily predicts what the Eagles are going to do. And, Nick makes like the pedantic argument that, well, actually, this is a play we've never run before. Like, this is, split zone with the motion this way, and it's not exactly the same. Well, like, you're missing the forest for the trees there. Like, if you're an empty and everybody knows it's going to be a Jalen Hurts run, it doesn't really matter if it's a slightly different formation. But he's explaining how that's 3rd and 6. They wanted to get to 4th and short so that maybe they could tush push, and that was successful. They only got 2 yards on the play. It was not successful. They ended up converting on 4th down. But you look at like their red zone numbers. They are 32nd in the league in pass percentage in the red zone, which they were low last year too. I think 31st last year. It's about the same percentage, but they're not as successful. I think they are like operating some of these drives and play calls on 2nd and 3rd down where it's like, let's just get to the push and like, let's just go get a 1st down now. Like he says the thing about, every drive starts 1st and 9.
That's where I was going to go.
It doesn't have to be that way. It's a great thing to have in your back pocket, but the goal is not to get to the push. The goal is to get a 1st down. Like, go get it. And why are we not trusting Jalen Hurts to throw the ball in the red zone?
It's an interesting point. I haven't heard it framed that way before. I don't know if I totally agree, but I can see the merit in the argument there. I do think, and we have this conversation with Professor Selman because he brings up that get the 3rd down stat. And when you're on offense, you don't always like having a good 3rd down offense is important, right? You want to keep the drive alive. What's better is converting on 1st and 2nd down,
absolutely,
right? It's like not even getting the 3rd down. So I definitely see the merit in your argument. I hear you about whether that gets in the way of their play calling, but I'm not sure that it's high on the list of problems. We have a super chat, by the way.
Oh, what's the super chat? The big problem is Sirianni's obsession with explosive plays. Last year, Shane preached making the right play and hitting the open man. Sirianni is over-preaching to Jalen to make the explosive play. That's from Dark Homans. What do you think about that, Zach?
I think the obsession with explosive plays is probably a good obsession because it's hard to go on 12, 15 play scoring drives. Like that literally was the premise of Jonathan Gannon's defense. And fans hated to see it, but I think you're seeing why with the Eagles offense now, because at some point there's going to be a penalty, there's going to be a sack, there's going to be a turnover, and it's going to work in the favor of the defense. So you want to be able to pick up yards in chunks. Now, that said, if the defense is playing a structure that's not allowing you to do so, you need to, as the Super Chat says, and as Shane Steichen referred to, like you need to make the right play. It's the expression, you can't go broke taking a profit, right? Like take 6 yards, take 8 yards, and live for that next down.
Mm-hmm. All right, one, Zach, where you made the point, you put out a tweet that this was more about him taking cover, so I want you to expand on that. He's asked about the play at the end of the game, the throw to A.J. Brown. There's 13 seconds left. You're about 15 or so yards from very long field goal range, but you've got time for 2 plays. Instead, you go down the field, a play that really makes no sense because even if he catches the ball, you're still going to be kicking a field goal there anyway, and you don't have time. If he doesn't catch the ball, you don't have time to run another play. But Nick says at times there we've seen you get a pass interference. It was on that particular. It wasn't on that particular play, but if you get a pass interference call there, and if a team is giving you a one-on-one shot for very similar to what happened on the other side of the ball, they ended up getting a one-on-one, yada yada yada. We have some of the best receivers in the NFL outside, so there are times where you're going to do that. We felt like in that situation we had an opportunity to. It didn't work out in that particular time. You are not taking him at face value there.
No.
You don't think the play call was let's go get pass interference?
I'll say this. I've covered the Eagles for 12 years. That would be the most ridiculous explanation for for a play that I've ever I can't imagine. With 13 seconds and timeouts, and you can go
2 timeouts,
and you can have 2 passes to get yourself in the field goal range
with one of the best kickers in the NFL.
Yeah.
You're going to say, let's go and hope for a pass interference here. That seems implausible to me. So I think that was one of those situations where Nick was covering for somebody else. My guess is covering for the quarterback, that Jalen made a bad decision on the play, but because if he wasn't covering, then it's certainly like I know you say Nick's not good at situational football this year, but he is obsessed with situational football. Like he understands.
He's obsessed with turnovers too.
I think he understands the situation there. To me, it made, when I heard it, it just didn't seem plausible. When I went back and listened to it, I said Nick has to be covering for someone here. And my strong suspicion, almost informed suspicion, is that like, he's not throwing someone under the bus and he's taking the bullet on that play.
We all understood the situation except for Jalen Hurts, which is why he made the pass, and which was ridiculous. I was watching with Bo. We were in here because the Sixers and the Eagles were playing that same night, and we were all sitting here watching. And as it happened, it was like, yo, Kenneth Gainwell was right there. Now, it sounds like revisionist history because everybody has seen it now where he was there.
Yeah.
Whether he was going to run up the middle, and I don't know how Seattle would have tried to defend that and getting him down and not touching him or whatever to bleed the clock, or if he was going to take the sideline, but he was wide open on the left and looked at Bo and said, that was, of course, the interception, but take the play that's right there in front of you because you're working against the clock, number one. And that's a very risky play down the field if it doesn't convert. And you take a lot of time off the clock as well. So that we all understood it. And that was a ridiculous answer. That was really bad.
I also think that wasn't a great design on that play. Like, you could have gone to Devontae. Even if you do go to Kenny there, that's the last play because it took so long. And does he get there or not? I don't know. I feel like, I'm not the design expert, but I would have liked to see some more options in the middle of the field.
See, again, creativity.
But I also think that this is Jalen. Like, Jalen loves to go big play hunting.
Yes.
Regardless of the situation. We saw it in the Commanders game when he threw the touchdown to A.J. Brown. Great throw. But all of a sudden now the game is not done. The Commanders have a chance, and they come back and tie the game.
Yeah, and I recall a play last year, like it wasn't the same situationally, but where A.J. wasn't even the option on the play. He was just the decoy. And Jalen threw it up to him. And A.J. made a play, and Jalen told him afterwards, like, always be ready in that situation, right? So Jalen does go big play hunting. We know that he trusts A.J. and Devontae disproportionately more, or he goes to them disproportionately more than the other guys. I don't necessarily know if that's a bad thing. But Jalen needs to be better in that situation. Like 4 years into your career, you're the franchise quarterback, you're the MVP candidate. You need, even if, like, for some reason that's what the play call is, you need to be better. You hold the ball. Like the quarterback is responsible every single play for the play. Not the offensive coordinator, not the coach, the quarterback is. Because the quarterback's the one who's making the decision. And if he can overcome the coaching, then I gotta put this on silent.
How does this?
It's my bad.
Who keeps calling you during the show?
Jalen Hurts.
What's up, Jalen? Yeah, no, that's my father-in-law.
He was upset.
That's my father-in-law. So he was not watching. Otherwise, he wouldn't
that would
call
be
me.
ballsy. Yeah.
But when he watches this back,
maybe he's got something to say.
He's a fan. He definitely, if we took calls on this, right, like he would definitely light up the lines.
That would be cool.
But no, I hold Jalen responsible for that interception and the Quez interception too, right? Because like that's situational football as well. First down, you need to bleed the clock. That's not the throw to make in that situation.
Ball was moving. Yep.
Let's talk about Quez. This is very low-hanging fruit. This is not the problem with the offense, but Nick was defending. The first question of the press conference was about Quez, and he says, you got to understand this about Quez. His speed changes the game, and not just because it's going to him, it's going to open up the rest of the field, and you can't always predict where the ball is going to go. The defense has to respect him. And generally speaking, I have agreed with Sirianni. I have, like, over the course of his career.
You've been a Quez guy.
Well, I mean, first of all, he has outperformed his draft pick range. Like he had a very good, for his level, 2021 season. And if you're not going to throw to that other guy, sure, it makes sense in theory that he's going to spread the field. That has not been the case this year. The numbers don't bear that out. The Quez on the field, Quez off the field splits, they are the equivalent of if when he's on the field, by success rate. They're the 13th best offense in the league, 13th best by EPA per play, EPA per pass. They're 18th in the league, EPA per run. They're 11th in the league. You flip those with him off the field, they go up to 5th in the league in EPA per play, 4th in success rate, 4th or 5th in EPA per pass or EPA per run. So there is a marked difference when he's on or off the field, and we know that he doesn't get thrown the ball. He's 169th of 175 receivers in the league in yards per route run. You know who number 175 is?
Jalen Reagor?
Oh, Rager's 170, actually.
Okay.
He's one spot after. 175 is ya boy, Julio Jones.
Well,
Look at that.
Just give Julio some time because
He's going to come eventually.
Yes.
He had a catch.
he did.
He had one big catch.
Yeah, one big catch.
I do think, you mentioned it, like, let's just let Olamide Zaccheaus be on the field. I don't
not?
really understand why he's not on the field.
What's the harm? And look, we all know stretching the field, having
He's
a guy.
made 2 plays this year. Those other 2 guys combined have made 1.
Yeah, and guess what? They were down the field.
Yeah.
They weren't. Let me catch something short, intermediate, and break a tackle. And no, they were down the field. Tampa Bay and the one that he had caught in the end zone. But the Quez Watkins thing, it turned out pretty good. And the one catch I always remember him for is the San Francisco game, week 2.
Right sideline.
Yeah, right sideline, and then they didn't get in the end zone.
Yep.
I remember that. But since then, yes, 2021 is pretty good. But I mean, taking that shot there, as you said, you're looking to Jalen Hurts to be the guy making the right decision. You're putting this player in a bad spot. And number one, he shouldn't be on the field, but he is. So, yes, but he also took 2 people with him, so find something else. And at that stage of the game, they were moving the football. They were looking to close the game out at that spot. If they score there, it's going to be really hard for Seattle. If a touchdown, it's going to be really hard. And with it, you're also bleeding the clock. You're taking time off the clock. So why are you worried about it? Similar to the A.J. Brown point that you're talking about when they did score against Washington. But in this case, it went against you. It bit you. And you allowed them to stay in the game to come back. So this whole Quez Watkins fascination with taking the top off the defense and taking defenders with you, yes, until it's not working. At least when Olamide Zaccheaus is on the field, he's catching it at least. And then it's the other part. Zaccheaus is fighting for the ball too.
Yeah.
Quez Watkins is not attempting to now
running. It's
be
really
a
one of the funniest
defender
things,
to not allow the interception to happen. So that's where it's troublesome.
There is, what? Oh, another super chat.
Yeah, super chat. Sorry.
No,
Am I supposed to point out the super
Go
chats?
ahead.
Okay.
Why don't you read it?
Okay. This is from
Our same guy. He's really.
this is from Darkomas. Yeah, appreciate
throwing
it.
that cash around.
Oh, man, the donation.
I'm grateful. Jalen is going big play hunting because it's pushed by Sirianni, explosive, that he has overlooked open receivers. Am I reading that correctly? Checkdowns on 2 critical plays last game. Now, I think with this is one thing I'll say, and I'm just. I know I'm not behind closed doors, and you referenced that Mike McDaniel clip. We heard Nick Sirianni yesterday when Jeff McClain from the Inquirer asked him, like, I know what you're saying about Jalen publicly. Are you critical of him behind the scenes? And Nick had his back up in a big way there. And he's like, accountability is a core.
Jalen likes to be coached hard.
It's the third part of this. And this is what I'm really curious about because Jalen.
That was funny though. He's like, it's our number 3 core value, and then he's like, well, actually, they're all equal. It's not really number 3. They're all the same.
Jalen is we know the whole mentally tough guy, right? Coach's son, dealt with a lot in his college career. Has been resilient, has dealt with adversity, has that football character. That is all accurate. Okay, it's also true, and you see this in every single sport, football included, that a player gets to a certain status when they're above the people coaching them. Like Jalen, outside of Jeffrey Lurie, Jalen's the most important person in that organization.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like he calls the shots. And it can get to a point, even if you're like that, where there's people whose jobs rely upon you as opposed to you relying upon their jobs. And
This is the classic dynamic in any NBA locker room, right?
Exactly. And you see it sometimes in baseball, and you see it. Yeah, maybe in hockey. I will ask Charlie and Bill the next time they're in here. But certainly in the NBA, it's a dynamic, and in the NFL, you really only see it when, or you see it more pronounced with a quarterback. And so what you want to know, like I've said this and I stand by this. Brian Johnson earned that job on his own merit, right? But it's also true that Brian Johnson was Jalen's quarterback's coach and has known Jalen for a long time. And Nick Sirianni, Jalen's no longer that guy who is fighting for his job, which he was going into last year. He had to keep that job. He's now the face of the franchise.
Yeah.
He's now the $250 million plus quarterback. And what you want to make sure is that they're still coaching him the way they were when he needed to keep that job, when he needed to play a certain way for them not to use those draft picks and not to trade for an established player.
I was kind of hoping you're going to pivot that to this is why general managers are underpaid, but
they're underpaid?
Well, according to Thomas Dimitrov.
According
yes.
to Thomas
Okay,
Dimitrov,
gotcha.
his pet thing. Now, here's the very last thing I want to talk about Sirianni-wise. And this is one thing that he talked about when he was first hired. And this is the bottom line in evaluating the job he is doing, the job the rest of the coaching staff is doing. And I asked him about Matt Patricia.
Yep.
What had he seen over the past couple months to impress him? He didn't really want to deal with that. And I'm curious what you think we're going to hear from Matt Patricia today, Zach. But he said, what I look for in every one of our coaches is can they get the players better and can they help put the players in positions to succeed? And then he says, and are they a good man? Because you need good people on the staff. But those first two things, are you getting the guys better? Are you putting them in positions to succeed? I know it's a players' league, Zach, but right now, can you make the case that they are doing that? I don't know that you can.
No, I mean, not in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, they are 10-4, right? They have some big wins. And and not to go off topic, but when I was thinking about this team last night, one of the things that I was wondering was if the sequence of games was different, like if they struggled earlier this year, and then they went on, they went 6-0 on this gauntlet here, and that's how they got to 10-4. Is the conversation different? Like, should all that matter be the record, or is it how you got to that point? We can save that for a different day, but that was just a thought exercise I was doing. But no, I don't think this team's done I don't think the staff's done a good enough job this year in terms of development of some of these young players. We haven't seen enough of it, right? The best players on this team this year have been like the older guys and the established guys. Yeah. Okay. And then I would say like situationally, schematically, the best they did was with the defensive coordinator that they demoted. Like the best coaching jobs I've seen this year was Sean Desai versus Miami and Sean Desai versus Kansas City.
Yes.
There's never been a game this year where I'm like, wow, the offense really,
The only one is the Vikings game. When it's like, we're just going to run the ball.
We're just going to run the ball. Yeah, true. So that's kind of like the irony to this is like
right.
I mean, just off the top of my head, I think the best coaching jobs were by Desai.
Well, and if you are wondering about how like the locker room is handling all of this stuff, that is, and Sirianni has said this, the thing that the guys care about the most is, are you going to make me better?
Yes.
And right now, are they making them better? I'm not so sure. All right, Monday night, you've got Eagles Giants. Tommy Cutlett's coming to town. You want to check that game out? Go to Game Time, because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. They've got flash deals on last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Images of seat views, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. It is the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, just
2 taps.
And you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. And tickets make great holiday gifts, especially if you're like, last-minute shopping. You don't have time necessarily to wait for shipping. You get those tickets. You print those bad boys out. That's easy peasy. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Speaking of that, by the way, what are you expecting the crowd to be like on Monday night? Because I see in the chat here, people are like, couldn't pay me to go. Are those tickets 50 cents? Right? Like, is this going to be an angry crowd?
That's because they weren't going anyway. Sorry. Okay. They weren't going anyway. I think it's going to be a typical Eagles crowd. It's Christmas Day. It's going to be full. It's an important game at this point. I do think so. What time is the game?
4:30.
4:30?
I think it's going to be like an uneasy. It's going to be like
Okay.
they will be willing to
But
go
the
either
building
way.
will be full, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's
so.
what I'm saying. I think the building
Yeah.
will be full. Now, how are they reacting to things? At least going in,
I think it's
going
to be like, let's see how this thing starts,
Sure.
and it's going to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because
Like,
they're
if
looking
they
at it-
come out and go up 14-0, everybody's going to be
Yes.
happy.
and they're looking at it already. Are we really going to lose to this guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the guy on the other side, the one that's this new story. They can't possibly lose it. Well, you just did, kind of, I mean, look, Drew Lock was already a name in a sense, but Tommy DeVito, he has this little buzz behind him, even though they're not really winning games. He has a buzz. Like, we can't possibly lose to this guy. And that's where I think being a little uptight, the uneasiness in that building will probably be there going in. Yeah, I think so.
And we will get a little bit more into the specifics of that matchup tomorrow when we have the professor coming on. I know everybody's worried. 0-3 with Deniz on the show. He is committed to holding this thing through. If they go 0-6 down the stretch, then maybe we'll have to revisit. But
It's DeVito. He couldn't hold the job down at Syracuse, and that was pre Fran Brown. Shout out to Fran Brown.
He hasn't played the Eagles yet.
Yeah, it's true. So
Twice.
we'll see.
a couple things you wanted to get off your chest, Eagles-wise, Devon. Let's start with the last one on offense, which is like DeAndre Swift's usage is on your radar.
Yeah, and that's where we talk about. You mentioned the Vikings game, right? Game 1. Where's DeAndre Swift? Why are we seeing Kenny Gainwell more involved in the offense? And going in and listening to you guys hear about training camp, the battles, who's gonna be the starter and all that. And I'm like, Kenny Gainwell can't possibly beat out DeAndre Swift. He's a much better player, and he did, at least for the start of the season. And then game 2, we saw how it was supposed to look, and he was phenomenal, and he looked fantastic. He was great. And since then, we had seen it much, much more. Where has he been since? I understand defenses pick up on things and they slow you down. The offensive line is still the offensive line. There's been some injuries and things where they have been banged up and on the offensive line. Players have missed some time and all that. But where is DeAndre Swift? Okay, if you're taking away the run game, why is he not involved in the passing game where he is out of the backfield? Sure, we've seen him now a little bit on these
that was gonna be a big
wheel
deal.
routes going down the sideline, matched up against these linebackers. We saw a play on Monday night where they threw it to him, and he wasn't catchable, but he did throw it. Where are the Texas routes in the middle of the field where you're taking advantage of him in space in the middle of the field where you have these two dynamic outside receivers and a tight end who's also going to draw attention? That's an advantage that you're going to have with DeAndre Swift. So if the running game is not working the way you feel, well, use this to get him going too, to make them think, and then hit him on the ground once again. And that's where my problem has come here with the offense of Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni, whoever you want to lay it at their feet. Where is that stuff with this other skill player that's dynamic? I love A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. You know who the other fourth guy that I love watching? DeAndre Swift. He's still very talented. He doesn't look like he has lost a step. He doesn't look like he doesn't have the speed or the burst anymore. And when we're talking about a running back opposed to what we saw from Miles Sanders, who was phenomenal last season, I didn't even think he had that in him because I was already at a point where I didn't think he would do the right things of hitting the holes, not dancing too much.
Well, you and Bo are kindred spirits on that one.
DeAndre Swift doesn't do that. He's patient. You see him put the hand on the hip, right? Put the hand on the back of the offensive line who's in front because I'm following this guy. I am following the lane that's created for me. Where is that, Bo? That is not there.
Well, and I actually thought that he looked better last game
He
than
did.
he had in a while.
And they didn't give him the ball anymore.
And he was making guys miss.
And I know I missed a lot because I had to go do Sixer stuff, but yeah.
Well, and this is two things here. One is the absence of him in the passing game, I think, is a huge failure of the offensive design. Like, we spent all summer not just like asking, is he going to be a part of it, but like you were 32nd in the league last year in targets to running backs. Like, okay, we've got DeAndre Swift. He can do that. And it is like completely absent from the offense. And it's a dynamic that I think, like, if one of the major criticisms of what they have done, to your point earlier about like what are your answers to them studying you, what wrinkles can you add, that they haven't done that is a failure. The second thing is, listening to that broadcast the other day, you always get like a few little nuggets from the broadcast crew, and they've got their production meetings that are like, off the record, but they learn some things from the coaching staff. And Joe Buck sort of mentions casually that like Gainwell is a little bit more involved in the offense now because you wonder if they're worried about DeAndre Swift wearing down as the season has gone on. And he has more carries than he typically does. But for him to say that absolutely tells me that the coaching staff was like, we can't lean on DeAndre quite as much as we thought we could earlier in the season because he's a little bit worn down. And maybe that's like the tracking stuff that they have. Maybe they have data on that. But I thought he looked pretty good last week.
Yeah, I actually think it might be more they want to make sure that he's healthy for the postseason. He does have an injury history, but
you're also trying to win a game in the moment, so
I
you
agree.
adjust.
And I've been saying this all
Get the
along.
ball to your better players.
Like, use DeAndre Swift. He's talented. He's explosive. There's a reason why you traded a draft pick for him.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he's been the top running back. To me, that's not an excuse. You're in December now. Like, the time to be thinking about that would have been October, early November. You're in December now. What you're trying to do is stack wins, and you're trying to win the division. DeAndre Swift, he gives you a better chance of doing that than Kenny Gainwell, for sure.
100%.
All right,
100%.
Defensive side of the ball, Devon. Defensive line. We have been talking about how this is the unit that is supposed to carry the defense, if not the team. They've got so much invested there, and they are not getting the job done, especially sack-wise. The end of that game, they had 10 plays. They barely sniffed Drew Lock. What is on your radar there?
So the line of scrimmage on both sides is where this organization lives and where they start. And the offensive line is the offensive line. The defensive line didn't expect them to duplicate what they did with the 70 sacks, especially losing Javon Hargrave. By the way, he was my number one free agent to return last season because of how the rotation was phenomenal last year with how they did it. And could they do it again in getting the sacks? I didn't think so. So I thought, all right, are they now going to get these different type of numbers where there's be more takeaways than there were sacks last season, somewhere where balanced, and they're still a very good defense. And they have fallen off. Hassan Reddick has picked up his play, but Josh Sweat has now fallen off a little bit. Derek Barnett, anybody who has seen me or listened to me over the years, I am a huge get that guy the hell off the field because he is a penalty waiting to happen.
I'm going to leave, let you guys
He is
talk.
a penalty waiting to happen.
Yep.
And look, he is now gone. Kentavious Street is traded. Some of your depth may be compromised now with that. You're not even playing Nolan Smith. What he had 8 snaps in this last game.
9, yep.
So you're not even using your depth overall with the waves. And I heard you guys talk about how the rotation was, where they had guys just funneling in like a hockey shift and all that stuff basically in this game on Monday night. But the defensive line, not the same. Of course, the linebackers are a question. You can get into the whole TJ Edwards part of things. Did he want to go home and all of that? But then even with the cornerback position, where last season I was a big defender of Slay when many people got on him in that second half of the season where people felt like he lost it. And James Bradbury is clearly the better player. Vontae Maddox is typically injured. So, that's what that is. It is what it is. The safeties were good. But both of them now are taking hits. And then I'm disappointed in Slay because while he's being true to himself, it's like, man, you need to relax a little bit talking to all the fans when your team is losing and then you're pointing out how good you thought you played. Where James Bradbury on Monday night looked really, really bad, guys. And he hasn't looked all that great all season. And is this what he is now as we talk about December and going into the playoffs where you say teams look at tape and look at film and they figure guys out? They're not shy anymore going that side. Now, he's still making a play here and there, and he had a good play on Monday night, but they targeted him on that final drive going 92 yards, and all you see is the back of his jersey, and you're wanting him to turn his head and make a play and have a pass breakup, and he's not even doing that. So that's where I have some of my concerns there with the defense, where the cornerbacks are not looking like the cornerback. Slay did not play. Why did he get the surgery? All that stuff. I like how Keely Ringo looked. I heard Bo mention that a little bit too. Like how he played. But Rick's not so much, and some of the others, Sidney Brown's running around fast and loose and all, but he's still being, targeted a little bit. So I have my concerns there because you are going to play some really good wide receivers. They're going to come after you. Are you going to make the plays? Are you going to create some turnovers? Because that's what you need too. You need some takeaways. You're not getting to the quarterback to sack them. You need some takeaways, and you need to get off the field on third down.
Yeah, so I think those are good points. The one I would focus on most is the front because you need to get to the quarterback.
Have to.
And that's where their money's invested. Those are guys, for the most part, are in the primes of their careers. right? When you look at least your edge guys at D tackle, it is concerning to me, by the way, that in that final drive that the Seahawks had, Jordan Davis wasn't on the field once, right? This is a guy you drafted in the top half. What's that?
I'm laughing at the chat. I'll let you know.
Oh,
Because our guys spending
We'll get
some
that.
money.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Dark Coleman has another super chat, and I'm laughing because he was like, "Your kids need Christmas gifts. Chill out, my man." But you finish your point, and then I'll ask this question.
John, it's a good show. That's why he's spending the money.
I
Come
think
on.
it's Jeffrey.
Yeah, so Jordan Davis was not on the field there.
Yeah.
And I said, like, we need to see him develop as a pass rusher. Bo made a great point when they drafted him, was that if you're just taking a guy to be like a first and second down player and to get you to third down, that's not worth a top 15 pick.
Especially when you have a good Kyle Hamilton sitting right there also.
Precisely. So that was concerning to me. And that seemed to be a Matt Patricia decision. I'm curious if that was. So the second part of your thing, the TJ Edwards thing, look, I'll stand by this. Fans might disagree with it, but the Eagles aren't going to pay for linebackers.
Sure.
It's just not the way they think.
Just like they don't draft him.
Yep. The James Bradbury point's a good one. And I'll credit Bo again here because I remember when they brought him back, I didn't think he was going to come back. Bo didn't think he was going to come back. And they get him back for what we thought was like a below market deal. And it's like, all right, well, if he's going to sign for this, then you can't resist it. But also, as Bo said then, like, isn't that the rest of the league telling you that they're not going to pay this guy what he thinks he might be getting? And he's coming back here because he's not getting that money elsewhere? Like, if the guy's not getting the money elsewhere, that's the league answering something for you. And so I think Bradbury...
James Harden.
I thought, yeah, well said. I like Bradbury personally, and I think he's been fine this year, but he's been inconsistent. And for what they're expecting from that position and what it could, how you could have allocated that money, they haven't gotten enough from him.
They need better
That's
than
going to be
fine.
a big offseason decision because it's going to be costly to move on from him, but I think they might. They have to swallow a pretty big pill. Look, the question from Dark Omens, if the Colts called and offered you Shane for Nick in a straight-up trade, would you take that trade?
No. I'm saying no flat out.
It's just an interesting question, though, because that's discussion worthy. But I would say no. I would say no. I would like to see him come back as the offensive coordinator, but that's a demotion for him.
I mean, I would say no too, but I do think my priors on this were that like the Shane's influence in the efficiency and quality of the offense was probably a little bit overstated, but just like seeing how the offense has done without him and seeing how the Colts have done with him, I think I was maybe not quite as willing to believe what might have been true. I think he was a big role.
You're a Shane guy now.
I'm allowed to evolve, am I not?
You should. When
Yes.
information changes, you change with it. That's the best way
I
to do it.
evolved, too. I said they, get rid of Derek Barnett by all costs, and now it's messed up their rotation.
There you go.
They just got to play Nolan more.
All right, last one for you, Zach.
Exactly.
We are going to hear for the very first time today from Matt Patricia, who has not spoken to the media since he was hired in the spring. What are your expectations for like his demeanor?
And will he have
podium?
the pencil during the
Yeah, good question. Does he press conference pencil?
press conference
I
pencil?
don't think he'll
like
press
that.
conference pencil. I don't think he'll press conference pencil. I'm curious.
Press
I think
conference
he'll lean into who he is. I think he's going to.
Which is what?
Which is like I won how many Super Bowls did he win? X amount of Super
You think
Bowls.
he's going to come out arrogant in his very first press conference?
Boy, he doesn't know this city.
Yeah, I think he's going to come out.
I think that would be a mistake.
I think
Thank you, Bo.
he's going to be a special. I think he's going to come out. I think he's going to come out Belichickian. I think he's going to
Really?
be. I don't think arrogant. I think he's going to be bland. I don't think.
Well, he has to be bland. That's,
I don't think he's going to offer much. He might say very little with a smile on his face, right? But I don't think he's going to try to charm. I don't think that.
I think he
I
kind of
don't think
needs
this is
to.
going to. I don't think this is going to be like the size first press conference where he's like, "We're going to be palpable. We're going to play for the city." I think it's going to be very much like this is he's going to be.
I mean, it's a delicate situation. It's not like an introductory defensive coordinator press conference where he can be all excited like you're saying, because it's like he just took this guy's job, but that guy's still in the building.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated dynamic. But he cannot be bristly in his introductory press conference. He hasn't talked to these people. Like he has nothing to stand on. He has to be something like hey, like it's nice to meet you guys. It's not like good to get a chance to talk for the first time.
Yeah, I think they're gonna tell him, don't feel the need to say much. And he's gonna say, do you know where I came from? Like,
Puff his chest out.
I don't know that I agree with that.
This is my.
Well, if he's going to do that, he might as well come on there and go like this, because no one's trying to hear that. Put the rings up. That's what you're going to do.
Put up
Because
10 because he's never had a top 10 defense.
there you go.
I think this is gonna be his MO. I think he's not gonna like all of a sudden try to charm the Philly media. Maybe
This
so.
is a
I would like
situation
that.
where he is very much not just talking to the media. He is talking to the fans. Like,
Yeah, I don't think
He needs this to work in his introductory press conference. He needs to come out there and understand that he needs to work the room, if you will, here.
I think he does a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if he can, but
I don't know. I don't know enough about him except for Slay didn't like him.
right.
Yeah.
Now, this is the thing. We talked about this the other day. Like, what I heard when he first got there for the first few months is that, like, this guy is not what I expected. He's like very engaging and like
he also needed a job,
not a big ego, right? He did. Who knows how things have evolved since then? But I don't know. I would be surprised if he comes out and has like the same energy Nick has had.
I think organizationally, that's the approach they're taking.
But he's not part. He wasn't part of that team. He doesn't have that earned equity.
In his eyes, he probably has more.
That's dumb.
He's hoisted the Lombardis. I think Nick
He's
said
more responsible for an Eagles Super Bowl than anybody else in the building.
Correct.
I think Nick said on WIP this morning that he's one of the most accomplished defensive coordinators ever.
Well,
okay.
I think that's the way they're going to build this. I think in that organization right now, and we talked about this with Nick, and I think it stretches all around. It's like, how dare these fans be upset about where we are? We've won 10 wins. We've been in the playoffs. X of the
Right,
last
but that's
years.
not him. He doesn't get that.
Oh, but I think I think he would feel it. I think he would. Yeah, I think that's what I'm. Now, I could be wrong. I don't know him. I've spoken to him in media interactions, but he wouldn't know. I mean, I could do the secret Syracuse handshake with him, but that's about it. But yeah, I'm curious to see. That's 12:30. We will talk about it on tomorrow's show. I'll be writing about it on all PHLY because I know there's excitement.
okay.
All right.
And I'm curious about the pencil.
Well, Devon, thank you very much.
Yeah, this
for
was
spending
fun.
some time
Thank
with us.
you.
This was great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This was fun, and I'll be with you on Christmas Day. I
I'll
look
see you on
forward to
Monday,
that.
and then we'll do it again after that, I hope.
And 2:30 today for me, Sixers with Derek and Kyle.
A lot to
Back
talk
to
about
back.
after last night.
Yes. 86 points between the two guys. Is that sustainable?
Well, when
I'm asking you
Joel's
basketball
playing
guys.
When Joel's playing that well, yeah. I mean, I saw Anthony Edwards' quote, like, "How's anyone going to stop this guy?"
Yeah.
Joel's just on a mission right now. It's awesome to watch. I typically have the Sixers on like as my background when I'm transcribing or I'm doing work, and I have the Sixers on there. And then he's never in the fourth quarter anymore, right? Because
4 straight games
Yeah.
last week where he did not play in the fourth quarter because that's how good. And he still reached 30.
But last night was a statement game because the T-Wolves have such length. Like, that team defensively is just going to be a bear in the postseason.
Number one defense in the league
Yeah.
coming into last night's game. And I thought the biggest story we thought last night was Tyrese Maxey. Of course, 51. How could you.
Sure.
But 35. It's just the growth of Maxey. And to do that against that length, that defense, it was phenomenal to see.
I was just going to say 86 between the three of them if you count Zach.
Very true.
Maybe Morey knows what he's doing.
There
Very
you go.
true. Kyle scored a couple times last week, and they played Detroit and Washington. Kyle,
yeah?
Kyle Newbeck. Yeah, he was in the box score.
Okay.
Those teams were bad.
All right, that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thank you for watching. Back tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Professor Selman in the seat. Look forward to that. We'll get into the matchup with the Giants. Plenty to discuss. Matt Patricia, all that good stuff. We will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks as always. And you know it. We love you.